The Ohio State Buckeyes are off to a fantastic recruiting start, and after the national title, there are high expectations. But can Ohio State finish with the number one recruiting class?
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into a crossover edition of Locked On the Portal and Locked On Buckeyes. I am Brian Smith, your host today, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. All things Buckeyes today, all the things going on with their incredible recruiting start, whether or not the Buckeyes can get the number one class, to figure out everything that's going on with it. My guy, Jay Stevens. What's happening, Jay? Everything good, brother?
Oh, yeah, everything's good over here. It's been a rainy day over here in the Midwest, but good things are going on right now in Ohio State land. Really, there's no noise, which is the good thing this time of year.
Yeah, no news is good news. That phrase, especially in May and June when, spring ball's over at the end of the semester, you generally look forward to hearing nothing, as goofy as that may seem, because there's really no other positive news that can happen right now. So that's good for the Ohio State Buckeyes, as is their 13 commitments for this class. I mean, they've got probably a half dozen kids that will end up in the top 100, could be more. Chris Henry, Blaine Bradford, Kaden Dixon Wyatt, just several really, really good players. Are you surprised they're off to this fast to start in regards not just to be recruiting well, but they've got 13 guys in the boat? Does that surprise you at all?
I would say yes, because they got, I think it was 3 offensive linemen in a span of 3 or 4 weeks. This is in the spring. So, yeah, I am surprised by that. And, Brian, you and I have talked a lot about O-line recruiting at Ohio State, how it's been poor over the past few years. Not going to try and sugarcoat anything, because it really hasn't been up to the standard. Well, getting that, which was huge, because you got a new O-line coach. You're really bolstering up and boosting that side of the recruiting. But, yeah, I think 13 recruits, what is this, middle to the end of May? I think it's a big deal for Ohio State, because you're getting momentum, and then right before you have momentum heading into official visit season, where you're going to be having all recruits from all around the country coming into Ohio State. Well, they already have something to look forward to and say, do I want to join that group? Where if Ohio State only has 7 or 8, if they ask that question of, do I want to join that group? They might say no, because Bama, Georgia, USC, they may have 13, 14, 15, and that may be more appealing to them than to go join a group that has 7 or 8. But now that Ohio State has 13 recruits right now verbally committed, and a lot of these guys, some of the top end guys, are already shutting down the recruitment. They're not going to any official visit except for Ohio State. That speaks a lot about those guys, but also a lot about what's already been set as the foundation for this recruiting class.
Yeah, I think Ryan Day and his staff have done a good job of selling kids, because even with Ohio State, most of these guys are going to take visits, the elite kids, and they've really wrapped it up. And that's a big applause, because the kids in the top 100, especially the top 50, they'll flip you the bird real quick when you tell them not to take visits, because they can. So
Yeah, they will.
And like Chris Henry's a great guy and all that, but if he wanted to take 5 visits, he could. I don't think he's going to go that route. That's just one example. And again, congratulations to them. So let me ask you this. They got the 13 commits. They got 3 linemen in the boat, which I know is a priority. Is that the biggest need? Is it O-line in this class, or is it something else in your opinion?
Oh, right now, I think the biggest need, taking into account that they have 13 O-line commitments, is D-line and quarterback.
Okay.
D-line, absolutely. Like, the O-line stuff is real, don't get me wrong. But you have 3 really solid guys. They're not just guys filling space. These are really, really solid guys that could probably, 2 or 3 of them could probably play in year 2. That's how solid those recruits are. But D-line's a need, man. Ohio State is really trying to figure out the depth at D-tackle right now. They went into the portal to get a couple defensive ends, and Bo Atkinson from North Carolina, then Logan George, I believe, from Idaho State. So you're getting a couple guys to the portal to really boost up the edge for the Buckeyes. But D-tackle, they couldn't get anything. They lost a guy in the portal to Hero Canoe, went down to Texas. They tried to go after some guys in the spring. They couldn't land any D tackles in the portal. And I think that's a knock on the recruiting side on the defensive line. Larry Johnson's a great recruiter, great coach, but even some of the best recruiters, sometimes you miss. And Larry Johnson's been missing on a lot of the really good guys over the past 4 or 5 years, not just a couple years, 4 or 5 years. Quarterback, though, is the guy like we think he is, Brian. Lincoln Keenholz, I would assume, is going to be going into the portal in December. Well, that leaves Tavian St. Clair, Eli Brick Handler, the guy that just got from the portal, as the only quarterbacks in the room. I don't know if Tavian St. Clair is not jumping Sand's going to play one more year and then he's gone. But then you're going to have a really thin quarterback room once again if you lose Keenholz. You got to get at least one quarterback. It wouldn't shock me if they got two in this cycle, but you got to get at least one. I think quarterback and D-line are the biggest needs right now.
I'm curious to see how the O-line thing plays out because they're off to a great start and they're trending in the right direction. But D-line, usually those guys wait a little longer. So that's a little harder. We'll know more late June, early July, but still not be ready. But the quarterback situation, those guys commit early.
Yeah.
Who are they getting, in your opinion? I'm just going to bring that question up now because you brought it up. Like, I usually know the answer to that real quick, and I don't.
Brian, I don't either. I know they're going after Dia Bell. I think he's since committed to Texas. I don't know when that happened, but I know that wasn't going to happen. I don't know, Brian. I was looking at that earlier before coming on the show. I have no idea, which kind of worries me. Not gonna lie to you. The fact that we are right now in May, end of May, and we don't know who Ohio State's going after or what top end recruit is looking at Ohio State, that's not good. That's not good at all. Now, Ryan Day knows who he's going after, but why is it so hush-hush? I don't get it. It doesn't feel right that Ohio State, if the track that they have at quarterback, doesn't have at least one quarterback committed right now. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I think that's kind of maybe a sign that these guys are waiting to see what Hartline is as a play caller before moving forward. If Ryan Day were the play caller, I think you would already have a quarterback already lined up, already verbally committed, because you have data about what Ryan Day is as a play caller. You have nothing to go off of to say even a small sample size of what Hartline is as a play caller. So maybe, I just be speculating right now, maybe they're waiting for Hartline to call plays to figure out what the offense is like before deciding if they want to play at Ohio State in the future.
The other thing I'll add is I bet, although they won't admit it, Tavian St. Clair being the quarterback that got in the last class probably doesn't help for the next one.
Right.
There's nothing Ohio State can do about that one. I just wanted to throw it out there. All right. As far as Ohio State, which recruits are the fans most excited about right now that they have in the boat? Like, is there anybody that, like, I follow Ohio State some, but that's your daily endeavor. That's what you like to do. Who's getting the most talk and why?
Recruits or commits?
Let's go commits. If you want to do both, you can, but commits in particular, like, oh, this guy's going to come in and play for the Bucks, that kind of stuff.
It's weird, man, because me personally, as much as I love Chris Henry Jr. as a player,
right?
Kaden Dixon Wyatt is a dog. And the
I've
fact
seen
they
him
got
live, he is a dog. You ain't lying.
Man,
you ain't lying.
They got two kids from modern day that are receivers to come to Ohio State, and both kids have already shut down the recruitment. That's insane. That's unheard of. I mean, Chris Henry Jr. is a 6'5" receiver, probably going to be 215, 220 at some point. Like, Ohio State's number of receivers aren't built like that. Marvin Harrison Jr. was 6'3", Jeremiah Smith 6'3". This kid, I'm not going to say he's going to be as good as Jeremiah Smith or Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm not going that far. But if he's going to be 6'5", 215, 220, that's a different body type than what Ohio State normally gets. Benjamin Victor, from almost 7-8 years ago, 6'5", he was a toothpick. Very, very skinny. I think Chris Henry Jr., by his sophomore year, he'll be yoked up. And you're like, oh my gosh, this guy could be a dude. But Kaden Dixon Wyatt has a different gear, and he has different attributes that make me excited about what he can be. Unfortunately, as a number 2 receiver, which is fortunately for Ohio State, because I think as a number 1 receiver, I would love him a whole lot more. On the defensive side of the ball, Blaine Bradford. My goodness.
Love him.
talk about versatility and talk about a guy that can just do whatever you want him to do on the field. That's him. And I can't wait to see what he does in the future. Those are the two guys. Dixon Wyatt and Blaine Bradford, to me, are the guys that I'm really excited about. Buckeye fans are too. There's a corner I can't think about that's very versatile, that it can play either right now, it can play corner or safety. He even talked about how when he gets to Ohio State, he'll primarily play corner. But then all of a sudden, if he needs to be a Swiss Army knife, he can be. His name escapes me.
Jordan Thomas.
Yeah, that's him. He just committed too. Shame on me for forgetting his name. But Dixon Wyatt and Bradford are the guys. I think Chris Henry Jr., for most fans, is the guy that they look at, committed during, I think, before sophomore season. And so, like, that was one big thing. And for him to already shut out his recruitment, I think a lot of Ohio State fans really respect that. There's a young man that's a recruit. His name also escapes me. He's a linebacker from Cleveland, and I think he goes to Glenville. He is one of those guys that Buckeye fans are going to be watching very, very closely because, unfortunately, Ohio State has been losing some of the top-end talent in the state to schools like Oregon, to schools like USC, to other schools out there. And so I'm not looking at his name up right now. Forgive me for forgetting.
Johnson?
That's it.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. I know Sincere. Good kid. Yeah.
He's the kind of guy that can continue that Cleveland tide, the Cleveland pipeline, open the thing back up to continue what James Laurinaitis has already started to elevate the linebacker play at Ohio State. You get this kid in, he's probably going to be a player in year two. Not to say he's going to start, but he's going to be one of those guys in year two you have a hard time keeping off the field. Yeah,
I could see that absolutely. And they've got a lot of guys on defense over the last few years that kind of waited their turn. I don't know if Sincere will. He's really smart. I had a chance to be around him not that long ago. He is a baller. When we come back, we're going to continue on. We've got a lot of recruiting to get through. Then we'll eventually get into a very big question at the end about Ohio State season. That is next here on this crossover, Locked On Buckeyes and Locked On the Portal. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game. Before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. The NBA playoffs have been pretty wild. There's a lot of opportunities there. Pacers, Knicks, and different teams have kind of surprised people, been up and down, but it's been pretty wild. For me, anything that is regarding the three-point line is what I like. Of course, you can do in-game parlays. And by the way, the NFL schedule is up. You can do some futures on that as well. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head over to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, $200 in bonus bets for you. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Jay, next question. Just generic off the top. Would you consider Ryan Day to be an elite recruiter or just a good one? He's obviously at least good. What would you say as a head coach? How would you rank him?
That's a pretty good question because good is an easy answer, an easy yes. I would want to lean towards elite in every area but the trenches, if that makes sense to you, Brian.
Well, you and I have talked the last couple of years on your show, like, why are they struggling to get offensive linemen? What's the deal? I mean, this is Ohio State. It shouldn't be that hard. And I'm still perplexed by that until the current class, they fixed that. So good for them.
And that's why I want to word it that way. And fans, you can get mad at me. I don't care. It's fine. The fact that Ryan Day can get elite quarterbacks, elite running backs, receivers, even getting a tight end out of the portal, to me, that's still recruiting. On the defensive side of the ball, linebackers and secondary, they get great ones all the time. For some reason, they're losing elite O linemen and D linemen every year. I mean, there was a kid with Zion. I'm bad with names today. Committed to Maryland?
Yep.
There was a time that it didn't matter where you were. Ohio State and Larry Johnson, if you're one of the best at that position, you're getting them. You're at least getting a serious look. You're not losing to Maryland in recruiting? No. But I think he's elite in every position but the trenches. I think he's good in the trenches. That's being nice right now when I'm saying good. But I think he's elite everywhere else but the trenches, which is why Ohio State has really struggled to run the ball until Chip Kelly got there. If you look past the 2019 season with J.K. Dobbins, where he had 2,000 yards, if you take 2020 up until 2023, Ohio State couldn't run the ball at all. It was not up to standard. Yeah, Henderson had 1,200 yards his freshman season, and it was still like, why isn't this what Ohio State is used to getting? All of a sudden, Chip Kelly comes in, 2,000-yard rushers. You also had two guys that were second-round picks that got those yards. So was it all Chip Kelly? Was it all Ohio State? Was it the guys? I think you got to put a lot of stock into the running backs playing the way they did. But yeah, no, back to the question. I think Ryan Day is an elite recruiter at every area but the trenches, which is why I think in games in the fall, the Buckeyes at times struggle on the O-line and on the D-line. Now, it didn't last year at times. They really fixed a lot of things that were issues for him, but I can't say he's a late recruiter for the trenches because not only does he keep missing out on really big guys, Jackson Cantwell being one of them, you're also not developing them in the season. So I think they go hand in hand.
Next question is one that you and I messaged about before the show, and you said you were happy that I included this one on the list of questions for tonight. For those who don't know, there's a kid from the Dallas area named Felix Ojo that is a tremendous offensive tackle prospect. Now, Jay set this up nicely by bringing up the fact that Buckeyes probably haven't met the mark on the offensive line. And again, this class so far, the three guys I got, I like all three of them.
Yeah.
But Felix Ojo, for most programs, I'm not saying it happened at Ohio State, but at most programs would start as a freshman, as an offensive tackle, which is a very difficult task. Extremely long, he's gifted athletically, and he has heavy hands. In short, this is probably an NFL player if he's motivated. What is your take? They've got an OB coming up with him, if I remember correctly. His list is like the absolute ones that you would expect. Texas wants him really bad. That's hard to get a kid away from Sarkin State. But has there been any buzz for Ohio State? Because this would be the kind of the cherry on top. And it could possibly help him have a top 3 class conservatively, maybe number 1, because like I think 247 has him like number 5 player in the country. Like he's an elite guy. Where are you hearing some stuff about him? Anything good going on with Ohio State, or are they just getting a visit?
No, I think they're getting a visit. I think things are going very well for them. And also, he's not coming the weekend that Chris Henry Jr. and Dixon Wyatt and some of the other elite guys are going. Ohio State's doing something very strategic, like very smart with him. And it may be like his own scheduling with the visual visits, but Ohio State's getting him that first weekend. And I think they're setting the mark very, very high with him and saying everybody else has to come to our standard. It's not you take 3 or 4 visits and then you come to Columbus and you're comparing us to everybody else. We're going to set the bar so high when you get here, that's going to be very, very hard for Texas or anybody else to try to reach our standard. Also, you already know who you're playing with, who are the guys that are going to be beside you. And you saw what happened last year. While there is a new offensive line coach, you still saw Ohio State develop guys in season while they had a lot of injuries on the O-line that you're showing, well, there was a lot of issues with the Buckeyes O-line development and recruiting. Well, it's not an issue anymore. I think they fixed a lot of wrongs last year. And for a guy like this, getting him the first weekend and getting him there early where you can focus on him, where you can give him all the attention and set the bar through the roof, that's what you got to do. You can't wait and try to get him in with all the other big-time guys, which, I mean, I understand the method behind that, but sometimes you got to do things a little bit different. Get him there early so that when he goes on all the other visits, they're not Ohio State, and here's why. They don't have the culture. They didn't just win the national championship. They didn't just have multiple guys drafted into the NFL on the O-line. They don't have that. So I think Ohio State's being very, very smart. And if you get a guy like this to protect the backside, there's a realistic opportunity for him to be a day 1 starter. I don't normally say that. I mean, Paris Johnson was the last offensive lineman that I thought could be a day 1 starter. He didn't start right away because Ohio State was very 4- and 5-year O-lineman heavy at that time. But with Ethan Ananwa only having 1 year left, going to be the projected left starter at left tackle, that opens the door for Felix Ojo to start right away. You got competition from Ian Moore and other guys that have already been there in Columbus. But if you come in there with his footwork, his size, talk about heavy hands, bro. When he gets some paws on you, you ain't going away. I don't care how much wiggle you try to do. You're not getting away from that big man. But that's what you need on that backside. And you already know the quarterbacks or one of the quarterbacks you're going to be blocking for. I mean, it's setting up very well for Ohio State to win this. NIL is going to be a part of it. I already know that too. Ohio State can handle that. I'm not worried about the financial side of it. I'm worried about them setting the bar high when he comes on campus, and I believe they will.
I think that's a really important recruitment for a lot of schools. He might be the most intriguing player in the top 10 that's not committed, and he's at least in that conversation. Now, you just mentioned something else, another nice little segue. They spent a lot of money last year to keep players on the roster. They added some key guys like Judkins. Do you think they're going to spend, Ojo could be one of them, a lot of money in NIL for some of the top kids, or do you think it's going to be backed off a little because they won that title?
It's tricky because my first thought is to back off, but you're going to have to spend to keep guys on the roster. I mean, Carnell Tate was flirting with I don't want to say, I don't know what, and he was flirting with other schools because he said he wasn't going anywhere, but other schools are flirting with him. I know his girlfriend, if they're still together, she was going to Oregon. So when Oregon's name popped up with Tate, it was like, oh, this is a realistic opportunity because a girlfriend's out there. He stayed at Ohio State. Jermaine Matthews Jr., who's the starting corner this year, he was a guy that people were wondering if he was going to go to another school. He's still there. Igbinosun, I didn't think he was going to the NFL. Some Buckeye writers thought he was going to go, and I'm thinking, homie's a day 3 pick at best. He could be an undrafted free agent. Ain't no way he's going anywhere, but there are rumors that he may go somewhere else. I think you got to spend money to keep those guys there. But also with recruits like this, I think you're going to see Ohio State spend more money than they used to. So I know the reported rumor was that Ohio State spent about $20 million, maybe $23 million at NIL last year on the roster. If you factor in the amount they're spending on guys and recruiting, I think that number could be higher. Kurt Signetti said Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, and some others are spending like $35 to $40 million. I'd like to know where that number came from because do you really think Ohio State's going to double their NIL spending when the guys on the roster are nowhere close to being as good as the guys that were on the team last year? I don't, but that's the number he spit out there. But yeah, I think your NIL number could be close to maybe higher just when you factor in the roster retention and the guys on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, it's that 35-40 stuff. I was like, yeah, you're making stuff up, bro. Whatever. When we come back, we're going to finish up with a couple more recruiting questions and then the big question about the 2025 season for the Buckeyes. All right. Which current freshman that's enrolling, so it's not a recruit, do you think is going to make that impact, especially if it's somebody that maybe Buckeye fans don't know as much about, maybe didn't get as much fanfare? If it's one of those, it'd be really cool. If it's not, that's cool too. But is there a freshman you think is going to come in and make a dent in the 2 deep, something like that?
I got 4 guys on my paper, Brian. Bo Jackson, Devin Sanchez, Fahim Delane, and Zion Grady. Grady is the one that's getting the least amount of attention right now, and I don't understand why. I know Ohio State went out there and got, like I mentioned, Bo Atkinson and Logan George in the portal. You got Caden Curry. You got Kenyatta Jackson Jr. I mean, you got guys there. You got 4 guys there that have played a lot of ball. The other 2 in the portal got pickups that started the most games. But if there's one guy that can make a difference on the edge with his hand in the dirt and a 2-point stance, I think it's Zion Grady. I think he could get out there and make it work. And so I know I talk a lot about guys that have experience and that are seasoned. I think sometimes you can get a guy like that, a guy like Grady, who can play a lot in that backup role and give the guys like Jackson Jr. and Atkinson and Curry and others a lot of rest in those bottom feeder Big Ten games. Bo Jackson probably be the 3rd running back in the rotation for Ohio State this year. Devin Sanchez could probably back up either corner spot. and I don't say that about a lot of true freshmen, but I think he's that special. Fahim Delane is coming into Ohio State at a very good time because you lose not only you lost Lathan Ransom, you also lost Jordan Hancock. And so I think Delane can be either primarily that strong safety. I don't know if he'll play nickel corner and be that close to the line of scrimmage right away. But I think there's a scenario that in a backup role, I don't think he's going to start, but in a backup role, he can get on the field too.
Yeah, that's a big factor, man. Getting the freshman like Dwayne's, that guy's really, really good. This is using what Sanchez. I've seen him. All the kids that you mentioned, they're all great. The kid from Alabama, I know he's a really good dude. Ohio State fans will like him on and off the field. So yeah, they got some impact freshmen for sure. Ohio State quarterback competition. Is it legit or is this pretty much who we think it's going to be?
Can I say is both the wrong answer? Because I think it's legit at times. In the spring, I think it was legit. I think Sand was going to have to do a lot of wrong to lose the job. And maybe I'm just saying it's not by the way I just described that. But I think his inexperience at times was similar to what Will Howard had to go through last year. Not Will Howard's inexperience, but Will Howard not playing with the type of speed and athlete that's at Ohio State, where he had to work through his mechanics and make his processing faster and get things going a whole lot quicker. I think Stan had to deal with the same thing because when you're going and not getting many reps your freshman year or being the scout team quarterback or playing with the third string guys, the speed and the pace of play is different than when you're playing with Tate and Smith and Ennis and others. And so I think at times it was legit because both guys were green and inexperienced. I still think Sand is the guy. I still think Sand would have to do a lot of stuff wrong to lose the job.
It's kind of where I'm at too. We'll see if that ends up being correct or not. All right, Buckeyes. Are they a 2025 title contender? And if yes, why?
I would say yes. I think it's easy to look at Ohio State, just look at the Big Ten, just look at a smaller group, and say Ohio State's going to be a contender to win the Big Ten. We all know Ohio State has beaten Penn State, 9 or 10 years in a row. That game's going to be very, very close. It's going to be physical, going to be competitive. I still think Ohio State's going to win that game. Getting those reps for Sand early before that is going to prepare him for that massive test. And so I still think it's going to be probably Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, right there, the top three in the conference to win that. Well, if you're the top three in the Big Ten, you're one of the better teams in the country. When Ohio State gets those reps and gets the quarterback right and gets the O-line some reps together, and the defense figures things out, I don't know what to expect from the defense against Texas week 1. I do know what I should see from Ohio State's defense in the middle to the latter part of the season. I think that's going to be them being able to turn the page and turn up the intensity. And when it comes down to commitment selection Sunday, Ohio State's going to be in the top 12. No matter what kind of format they use to make that bracket, they're going to be in the top 12 and be a contender. They got a good quarterback. They got elite players on both sides of the ball. The trench play will be better and will be consistent all year. And that's what you need. You got linebackers that are going to be good and running backs too, and the receivers, the tight ends. Like, they have the skill positions. They got the fast guys. But I believe they learned something last year with the trenches and are going to get that right earlier this year than a lot of other teams around the country.
All right, last question here. Your biggest fear from the 2025 Ohio State football schedule?
So this is going to shock some people. But the first one I'll get out the way. Playing Michigan before championship week makes me a little bit nervous because that has spooked Ryan Day over the past few years. I seriously think he is not just looking at Michigan. He's thinking about what is potentially coming up the following week. If they win that game, they have a shot to play in the conference championship game. And I think this messed up Ryan Day's method of coaching in that game. Aside from just really getting spooked by Harbaugh and spooked by Sharon Moore and spooked by the helmet, I think sometimes he looks too far ahead, and that hurt him. So Michigan, it just worries me anyway. Not going to lie about it. But also, that game being before the Big Ten championship game was played, I think it's going to trip up Ohio State, or it could. Not saying it will, but it could. The other ones, Texas week 1, I think it's enough said. Now, it's a luxury for Ohio State that is a home game. I don't know the right word to describe. The appeal to pump up Arch Manning's first start in the upcoming year could get in the heads of these young kids. He's a Manning. Peyton might be there. Archie might be there. Eli, and I'm sure his daddy going to be there, Cooper. That's going to spook a lot of these kids. A lot of these kids have probably never seen Peyton Manning. If they have probably never been in the same room as Peyton Manning. All of a sudden, he's on the sidelines of their first game and maybe their first start. That's going to spook a lot of people. And so that one trips me up. But then you got this stretch. You got at Washington. Now, it's off of a bye. So you got a bye, and then you go to Washington. You got a home game against Minnesota, and then at Illinois and at Wisconsin. 3 road games in 4 weeks. You got to go to the West Coast and then come back home to play a generally solid Minnesota team, and then go back on the road to Illinois, who's probably going to be a top 10 team at that time, and then go to Camp Randall. Wisconsin's not going to be good this year. I don't think they're going to be good. But for some reason, that place, Camp Randall, always forces Ohio State to play to Wisconsin's path and Wisconsin's style of play. They're going to get out of there with the win. But that stretch of 3 road games in 4 weeks, one of them is to Washington, come home and play Minnesota, and then you go on the road to Illinois in a rivalry game, then on the road again to play Wisconsin. That stretch is going to be very, very tricky in the middle of the season.
I agree. If the Illinois game is the one that I'm curious about. I don't know if they've got enough depth by that point in the season to beat Ohio State. Like, I think they'd be better off playing that game like week 3 for Illinois, because they don't have the same kind of players off the bench. They got a good coaching staff, though, and they've done a tremendous job there. They really have. So props to the Illini. But Jay, tell everybody where they can find your work, my friend.
You guys can follow me on Locked on Buckeyes on YouTube or wherever you get the portal. You can find Locked on Buckeyes as well every Monday through Friday. Sprinkle this weekend shows as well. There's no off season around here. I know how Brian works. I know how we're doing the same thing at Locked on Buckeyes. There's no off season. Every day of the week, there's going to be other shows around the country that cover college football like we do that are going to go on a hiatus, not really do shows as often as they should. Not around here. We got you covered all summer long, recruiting, media days, all that stuff. Brian and I will get you covered. Brian has a portal. I got Locked on Buckeyes. Brian, I'm giving your show a little attention there, but it deserves it. You do good work, and no days off around here, buddy. We like to go all year long.
That's absolutely right. I do a lot of 2-show days on the Portal podcast, covering recruiting and portal and everything else. So you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and anywhere else you get your podcast. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment. We will see you soon. This has been the Portal Podcast and Locked on Buckeyes.